Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for the Monday, the 17th of January. A week ago, Sunday, I preached about Jesus' baptism and then talked about confirmation. And I mentioned my own confirmation and a gentleman who was with me that day named Mr. Gordon Martin. And Mr. Martin was a gentleman I met when I was in grade 6, I guess. And I was 11 years old, and I know the exact day that I met him because on the 22nd of February 1983, he wrote me a note that said, "Dear Rachael, I did enjoy meeting you yesterday and having a meal in your home. I hope we shall meet again soon." And he wrote this on a piece of paper. I don't know if you can see this or not. And it's in fountain pen, and it's in cursive, which means probably anybody at the end of the age of 25 wouldn't be able to read it. But I can, and I'm glad of that. He wrote me several letters over the years that I knew him before he died. And he became a very important person in my life. And although once we moved away from Hanover, except for when we saw him at my confirmation in Niagara Falls, I didn't get to see him in person anymore. We got to stay in touch. And he gifted me with wisdom from his own life as a missionary and as a Christian, as a teacher, as a husband and a parent and grandparent. And he gifted me in the really practical thing of taking time as an older man to sit down and faithfully write me these letters. I have another one here. He wrote me when I was confirmed, and he included a copy of the cake that was at the church. He treated me not like an adult. I wouldn't say he treated me like an adult, but he treated me like a person. And he treated me like I counted. And when you're an 11-year-old who is, thinking a lot about God and stuff like that, and nobody else around you really is, and there aren't that many people to ask questions of. And when you're 11, the resources you have aren't necessarily, they're not flowing in. People, Sunday school doesn't quite cut it if you're searching for something deeper than the basic curriculum. And when I was only 11, we had, as I said, we had priests, but they were in multi-point priests, so they had more than one church, and they were often coming and going. We would be there between priests and things like that. So it was very important to me that I had a mentor, someone who treated me with respect, who listened to me, not out of some form of duty or patronizing me, but really listened and paid attention for the deeper meaning of the questions I was asking. And he gave me this book by C.S. Lewis, and he wrote the Screwtape Letters, and it was his own copy, not an original. I believe it's a second edition, but it's more than a second edition. It's several reprints. It's first printed in 1942, and this came out in May of 1943. But still, it's an older book, and it's a pretty good shape considering how old it is. But it was so important to me that he gave me that book because it had been his. And as a keeper of many books, you can see behind me, I've got all kinds of books. I've got books behind this computer that you can't see, and to my right, to my left, in the living room, in my bedroom, in the bedroom downstairs. We have books everywhere. And I struggle with giving books away. It has to be a very important person that I'm going to give a book to, or it has to be a really bad book. And I'll tell you, there are very few books I've found that weren't worth either hanging on to or giving to someone else who might appreciate it. But the idea that there was somebody in my life at a young age who would take me under his wing, would share with me something as precious as one of the books from his own library. And Mr. Martin did not have an extensive library because he was quite itinerant. He had been a missionary in his younger years when he was married. And when he and his wife settled down and brought their kids to Canada, they bought a piece of land and built a house, but then they lived on a caboose on the property. And then later in life, he moved back to England and lived in an older gentleman's home, meaning a home for older gentlemen, multiple, like a nursing home, but more independent, and with other missionaries, and so wasn't able to take many things with him. So the things that he kept and held on to were very precious to him, and so for him to give me that book was a very powerful, very meaningful gift. But the most meaningful thing that Mr. Martin did for me was to choose to be my mentor. Now, there were many other people around, and I've even heard a year ago, when we were living, or a year and a half ago, we were living in Petawawa, near Petawawa in Round Lake. There was a chaplain, a reserve chaplain, working with my husband Rob, Michael Hackbush, and we were chatting and discovered that his dad had been the Lutheran minister when we were in Hanover going to the Anglican church. And he was telling me about this old missionary who came to the boys group and was telling them stories about the war and telling them stories about being a missionary. And it turns out that Mr. Martin had been a mentor of theirs as well. And it just amazed me that such a small world, that we had lived so far away from Hanover and then come to a place completely, nowhere near it, probably 5 or 6 hours away from it, to find another person from another place who knew who this was and had as much respect and esteem for him as I did. That the world indeed is small. And I think there's a responsibility then that comes with recognizing both that the world is small and that there is a need for mentors, because those of us who are living a life trying to be faithful to God, believing in Jesus Christ and following the prompting of the Holy Spirit, we're never ever going to be given these gifts to be held to ourselves. We're never called to light to light that candle and then hide it under a bushel. We are called to share that light, to share that gift to Jesus with other people. And one of the best ways we can do that, if we don't have a great pulpit to stand in, and I don't, I might have 20 people on Sunday at one church and 10 at the other. It's not exactly like I have the masses to reach out to, but it doesn't matter. Whether you're talking to one person or 20 people or 2,000 people, we're really speaking to one heart at a time. It may just happen that 200 hearts are listening at once. But sometimes even with a great crowd, only 1 or 2 people are really hearing what the preacher has to say. And so that makes it very important for us as people who have a gift to share, the gift of Jesus Christ to share with the world. It makes it very important for us to choose our words gently and kindly and thoughtfully. That we recognize that when we speak, whether it's officially, standing up as a priest in front of the congregation on a Sunday, or sitting down with someone over a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate and having a conversation, or just living our lives and letting people see us live our lives, we need to be mindful of the fact that every time we do something, there is the possibility that someone may indeed be watching us, that we may become a mentor to someone else, whether they've asked us if it's okay or not, that we are someone they look up to, someone that they question, someone that they want to know more from, because there's something about us, for some reason God has said, look to that person. Over the years, I have had several mentors in my life. Mr. Martin is probably the strongest one I've had, but there have been so many more. And I've had the privilege of being a mentor to a few young people, a few people who have come alongside me in my ministry and in my life, and who have blessed me with that relationship of back and forth, because being a mentor is never a one-way street. It is a relationship of give and take, of learning and teaching and growing ourselves. And that's truly, I think, what it is to be a mentor, is to be able to do that. And so today I invite you to think about those people in your life who have been your mentors, who have been your Mr. Martins, those people who have taught you and helped to frame you and to build you up and help you to be who you are today. But also take a look around your life, look back into your past and think, who have you been a mentor for? Who have you helped to become someone that God has said, well done, both of you, my good and faithful servants. You have taught and you have learned. And that is how I planned it. This is what I wanted when I brought you together. Think about that, and then think about who you might become a mentor for in later years in life, or indeed who might be a mentor for you. Mentors are not just for the young. All of us need people that we can look up to, and they don't have to be younger or older than us. We can have mentors who are younger than we are as well. So do some thinking today. Who's been a mentor to you? Who have you been a mentor to? And who can you mentor today? And who could be a mentor for you today? So some ideas, some thoughts about where God is calling you to go as we continue to move forward in this season of epiphany, of moments of aha, and recognizing that God is indeed moving in our lives. Have a wonderful day. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.